Hey YouTube, it's Monica. Are you a homeschool mom or dad who feels like you're failing? This video is for you. So if you feel like you're failing, there's probably a couple things going on that need to change. The very first thing that happens with most homeschooling moms or dads is that they are trying to do everything. They're trying to be a full-time teacher. They're trying to run all the errands for the family. A lot of them are paying the bills. They are like the actual paperwork for it. They're doing housework. It's just overwhelming. And in reality, you guys are human beings and you're not superhuman, and it's just not gonna happen. Like, you're just not gonna be able to do all of that and do a good job. That's easy to say, I think, when your kids are a little older. Mine are 7 and 10, and I think when your kids are younger, it really is a challenge. I mean, it's a difficult thing because you kind of do have to do a lot of stuff. But don't worry, things are gonna get easier as your kids get older. So I'm kind of talking to the people whose kids are starting to get a little older, but still listen if your kids are younger, because you need to start thinking about, in the next couple of years, how you are going to improve things. So one of the biggest things that you have to do is take things off of your shoulders. You cannot do everything, and one of the biggest things that you need help with, chores. They need to start learning to help out. Make sure your kids are helping to sweep. Make sure they are wiping counters, wiping mirrors, wiping windows, and it doesn't really have to take that much of their time. And what happens is that it frees up more of your time so that the stuff that you're doing, you can actually do a good job. You can't do a good job if you're trying to do everything. So that's tip number one. The second thing that I notice with a lot of families is a really bad lack of discipline. And don't get hung up on the word discipline. I don't care what you do for discipline, but when you say something, it should mean something. So let me give you an example. If you tell your kids, don't jump on the couch, but you let them jump on the couch all the time, maybe one time out of 10, you actually punish them, or you actually insist that they don't jump on the couch. But all the other times, you kind of just like, and you essentially, you let them. What does that tell them? That tells them that the words coming out of your mouth have like practically no meaning. So how does that translate to a kid when you say do your spelling? What does it mean, do your spelling? It means next to nothing. Because when you have a habit day in and day out of saying do this or don't do this, and you don't back it up with anything, how can you expect to have success, with their homeschool stuff? So what's gonna happen is you're just all day long, do this, do this, do that, and they don't do it because it's a habit. Don't feel bad. Half of us have been sleep deprived for like 5-6 years while we've had babies, and then we're sleep training them, and then we're potty training them, okay? But you're starting to get some sleep, you're starting to get a clearer brain, it's time to get a handle on these things, right? So you just need to be consistent, okay? So if it's crazy right now in your home, pick 1 or 2 behaviors and just work with those. So take the couch. Tell them, be fair and say, hey, if you do this, this will happen, okay? And don't give them a warning. Make it real clear. Say, if you do it even once, this will happen, and follow through, okay? Don't try to do everything. You don't want misery in your home, right? Pick 1 or 2 behaviors and work on those behaviors, okay? Then you're gonna find, as you go on and on and on, your home is a lot happier place because your kids are starting to respect you because the words you say have some meaning. The next big thing that I noticed that really is difficult, your kids need to develop a sense of ownership over their own work. So instead of, what happens in a lot of homes is, if typically mom, doesn't sit down with me, then it doesn't get done. Then you have to sit with them at the table constantly, or they won't do any work. So of course, that needs to change. Well, how do you change it? How do you get your kids to develop a sense of ownership in their work? Well, I don't know everything, and I'm sure there are a million ways that people do this, but I'm gonna tell you how I do it. I make a packet. It's a packet, okay guys? The packet has all of their worksheets for the whole week, any worksheet. And then you say, well, not everything's a worksheet. Haha, I've thought of that. On the front of the packet is a checklist. You know, they have to like check it or they color theirs in. With anything that is not a worksheet, like a reading assignment, or maybe an assignment from a workbook that I don't want to make a copy out of because it's just a disposable workbook. So anything that is not a worksheet is going to go on this checklist. Like, oh, their Duolingo, really cool app for language learning. I put that on here, Duolingo. So that's what that is. So this is a week's worth of work. Oh, and not just that, I will also put things on the front checklist that'll say like, go over math with mom, or go over the logic book with mom. So instead of me having to remember, they have to remember. And why do they have to remember? Basically, if they don't get this work done by Saturday, they can't do anything. I'm trying to get them to the point where I don't have to remind them at all, but it's a process. So right now what happens is when they ask me at the end of the day, like at the end of the day on Tuesday or something, can I go play with so-and-so, one of the neighborhood friends? I say, did you do all the basics? So the basics are like the essentials, like the reading, the writing, the math, the spelling. Because what I find is if they don't do those and they have to do all of that on Saturday or Sunday, it's just too much in 1 or 2 days. Like certain things need to be spread out. So I just say, did you do all of your basics? And they know by now what those are. They're foreign language, reading, writing, math, and spelling. So they know what those things are. And they're starting to learn to not even bother asking me until those things are done. And they're, you know, they're still kids, they're still learning, but it has improved a lot. I mean, I am not having to micromanage everything they do. They're learning how to manage their time, which is great because I only have 2 kids and it's challenging. I can't imagine those of you that have 4 or 5 kids and you're trying and you think that you need to micromanage everything they do. And I think when you are teaching and you are cooking and you are cleaning, it's just too much. So you need to start thinking of yourself as more of a mentor, maybe more of the boss. You are responsible for making sure their schoolwork gets done. You are responsible for making sure they get fed. You are responsible for making sure that, we'll say that the house is clean, but your kids might do the cleaning. You might hire a cleaner. All these things can happen, but it doesn't always have to be you doing everything. And I can tell you one thing, if you are overwhelmed, you are trying to do everything. That's it. So you need to back up and work on those behaviors and say, well, why am I doing everything? Well, because my kids won't listen. Why aren't they listening? So back up until you find what you need to address, right? You need to go down before you can build up. So the last thing I want to talk about is spreading out the schooling throughout the year. Most of us grew up doing school all year round and then taking a 3-month break. And a lot of us have fond memories of that. And when you have fond memories, I mean, you want to give that to your kid. But I'm going to suggest that it's actually overall creating a lot more stress in your life. And that if you can let that go, you can actually have a much happier home life. You can enjoy homeschooling much more. So we do school year round. There's 365 days in a year, and we do school for 180 days. So that is 4 quarters of 45 days each quarter. Of course, for each quarter of the year, there's 91 days. So what I do is I have a starting date for the year, and then I go all the way to the next day, the next year. So then I figure out from this date to this date is my first quarter. And then I make these little cards. This is my son's name and week 32. Okay. And then it lists out everything that he has done for the week. We're not done with the week yet. And then on the back, it says, I need to start this week no later than 6/11. Let me try to explain this. So if my first quarter is the first 3 months of the year, but I'm really precise. I mean, I'm down to the day. Like I got 365 days and I divided it by 4 and I counted it out on the calculator. I got very precise about it. So there are 13 weeks in an actual quarter of a calendar year, but I have to do 9 weeks of school if I want to do 180 days of school in a year. And of course, those are like 9 5-day school weeks. So that gives you 4 weeks off. But what ends up happening is I end up doing like 4-day weeks most of the time, and then I still have 2 weeks off every quarter. So that's actually amazing. That gives me a whole extra day to run errands, or to do some extra cleaning, or just to run, go to a museum or go to the beach or do something fun. It adds a lot of flexibility. And then the extra 2 weeks, I mean, that's just amazing. Every quarter of the year. Just think about what you're teaching your kids when you take 2 months off just to do nothing. Or if you teach them to balance their life, right? I like the idea of balancing my life. And just for the here and now, it's easier. It's a lot less stress if you're not trying to cram all of that work into 9 months or 8 months, depending how you do it. It's just better to spread it out, and so you're not in such a mad rush all the time to get everything done in a short amount of time. So those are my tips. I hope that it's helpful. It sounds too easy, but it's not. If you start working on those 4 things, you're gonna see so much improvement, and don't expect everything to be perfect in a month. As long as you see improvements, you're good to go, okay guys? If you like this video, please share, please click thumbs up, and I hope you have a great day and happy homeschooling.